Well, great. First question would be, why have you decided to run for governor?
God told me to. Over 3 years ago, the Lord kind of spoke to me and said, "You need to run for governor," and didn't understand why. Because I love what I do. I love
Yeah,
what we do at the Freedom Tour. We make difference in people's lives, make difference in community, impact lives. I love what I do. So why do I want to get caught up in the corrupt politics? And
yeah,
now I understand. I mean, now I do. But it's all about God.
great. Which are the main priorities you want to implement?
Well, we got to get God back in government, God back in schools. As a government, we see all the corruption, waste, and fraud. So we got to get the moral compass back into our government and get somebody in there who's not going to be bought and paid for. We got to get it
Yeah,
back. We got to get back to we the people instead of we big corporations and we the lobbyists.
yeah,
And give people a voice. But one of the main ones is overdevelopment. Developers are destroying Florida. They're destroying our way of life. They're destroying our agriculture. They're destroying our water, our
yeah.
waterways. So much of that. And my message across the states: enough is enough.
All right. What are your, the measures that you want to implement in regards to agriculture and, supporting farmers and supporting workers?
The biggest thing is no rezoning. If we get back to quit rezoning all the agricultural land, that which does a lot of things. Number one, it keeps them from these developers and out of state
Yeah,
investment firms from buying everything up, running the prices up where it's just ridiculous on the price of land, which you can't blame a farmer at the end of the day. He can walk away with generational wealth. But the
yeah,
problem is then we're foreign influence, we're foreign, on food and everything else, which dependent on that. We don't want to have that.
yeah,
So, we can't have that foreign influence. But my one of my jobs is to help the ranchers out, help them with the beef.
yeah,
Um, One of the biggest things we have right now in the nation is we have four meat packers. Three of them are foreign owned. So I want Florida to be the leading and beef back to the leading in the beef industry, where we can have some
yeah,
packing houses here in Florida, help them guys, where they can
yeah.
make
That's right.
money, but get the prices back down to consumers. Then find a way, for the citrus industry. We kind of lost a lot of that, and a lot of that's foreign owned too, to where we can turn this citrus land into something farmland, whether that's ranchers for cattle, um, or tomatoes, watermelons, something we can help. Let Florida be sustainable on its own.
Yeah. All right. What is your stance on the Second Amendment?
Oh, I'm a firm supporter of Second Amendment. A lot of people misconstrue the Second Amendment.
Yeah,
What it's truly there for is the keep from tyranny from our government. You
yeah,
know,
that's
we
right.
have we have to keep that Second Amendment, to keep our government from, you know, ruling and reigning over us. And
Yeah,
we seen that during COVID, right? They tried to pull all the stops they could to pull all the
yeah,
power from us, shut us down, all that kind of stuff. And if they ever get our guns, that's what they'll do. They'll just, I mean, it's already bad enough with the raping and pillaging and corporate takeovers and all the nonsense they do every day.
yeah,
But if they ever get our guns, and the problem is, it ain't just getting our guns. It's like everything else. You say, if you give me an inch, they'll take a mile. So once you give them a little bit, they're going to take more and more and more. So, I think it's 100% gun rights. You should have from any kind of gun. I don't care if it's bump stock. I don't care if it's semi-automatic, automatic. You should have a right, and that right,
yeah,
it ain't for
yeah,
hunting and fishing or whatever. It's from tyranny from our government.
yeah, that's right. Um, um, well, you mentioned before that you want to get God in education again. What is your view of all these woke agenda policies, and that in some places they're teaching about those woke issues at schools, and what do you want to do to protect children?
Well, that's the reason why the Word of God is so. It's the answer to everything. You know what I'm saying? I
Yeah,
use it as it's the owner's manual. People say, "Oh, church rate separation of church and state," and I get that because the church is just as corrupt as the state is, but it's the
Yeah.
word of God that's founded our nation, founded our country. It
Yeah.
works. It does everything. So it's teaching moral character and moral ways. And I don't
Yeah.
mean this wrong. I mean, so my message across the state is Matthew 7:16. You'll know them by their fruit. So not only the person, but what is the fruit? If say the woke agenda, what's the fruit of that? You see suicides, you see drug, you see all the bad things that come with the people.
Yeah.
And that's not I'm not saying nothing bad about it. I'm saying that's just the fruit of that lifestyle. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, it's when you got suicide rates and all this stuff happening, depression, anxiety, all this stuff coming from a group who says they're right, but what's the fruit of that? But then you look at the word of God, when you apply the word of God to your life, you see the peace, love, joy, people's lives being changed. It works. And that's the reason why it's been
Yeah.
around longer. Actually, I got one right here. It's been around longer than anything else because it does
Yeah, that's
work.
right. Yeah. Well, what are your proposals for the environment?
Well, my message is this: Florida's full. And the reason why I say Florida's full is we're steady destroying our environment. We're allowing big corporations to come
Yeah.
in and
Yeah.
pollute our waters, our waterways. You got organizations spraying weeds in our lakes and our canals and waterfronts
Yeah.
left and right, killing our fisheries. Back to fruit. I hate when they say, "Well, science says this," or "We have data that says that." And I don't care who you are. You can pay anybody to say what you want them to say. I mean, whether it's
Yeah.
science or data, they can. You see that with voter polls, right? I mean, they can
Yeah.
manipulate anything they want. But at the end of the day, what's the fruit of it? We see our fisheries dying. We see our wildlife, dying off. It's just bad thing. We have to keep our environment. It's
Yeah.
we watch politicians and big corporations destroy the Everglades. The
Yeah.
problem is they made millions and if not billions of dollars doing it. Now they're supposedly restoring the Everglades, but who's making the billions of dollars of tax money to restore it? It just shows you that, we're at a tipping point now in Florida with developers and these big businesses, polluting our waters and, all this kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And, my message is enough's enough.
Yeah, that's right. Well, the last question would be, what do you think is different between you and the other candidates running for governor?
It's back to fruit. I tell people the biggest thing is this. So everybody has a story, and a lot of these guys have the poor. We're raised poor. My story was my mom
Yeah.
was 14 when she had me, 17 or 14 when she had my brother, 17 when she had me. Very poverty. 25 started a business, got very wealthy. Not very wealthy, but got started making good money,
Yeah.
and I was chasing the American dream, chasing money. But at 32, had an encounter with Jesus, radically changed my life. Since then, I watched my business almost go down to nothing, just because it wasn't important. What was more important was 2016. I started a ministry called the Freedom Tour, feeding people, helping people. We're in a community every day, impacting community. We're watching crime rates go down. We're watching lives being changed. We're impacting schools. We're
Great.
impacting kids' education. We're doing all that while these other guys are still chasing money.
Yeah.
They're looking for wealth. They're looking for it. Everybody says, "Oh, they're all in it to be bought." Well, I can prove that I'm not. I've seen the last 10 years of my life, my finances. Actually, I was riding yesterday with a sheriff, and he was showing me around town, and he was just talking about his guys and him and his retirement. And he's, "What about you?" I said, "To be honest, I have no retirement. I have no stocks. I have no retirement funds." He said, "Man, you live by faith." I said, "Yeah." I said, "I actually give everything I got pretty much back into society, into the world to help people. I mean,
Yeah.
I have money to live and eat that kind of stuff, but it ain't about money." So to me, it's about fruit. The last 10 years, I put over 100 million pounds of product into the economy of Florida for free. If you had to buy that, it's 350 million gift in kind. We work with schools, we work with law enforcement, we work with our county and city officials, we work with nonprofits, churches, working together to make
Yeah.
our communities better. And I do that across lines. You look
Yeah.
at a lot of people. If you're a Republican, you bash a Democrat. If you're a Democrat, you bash a Republican, and we get nothing done because our arguing and fighting. But what I've done is, and it's the same realm, and in the religion side, whether you're a Baptist, Pentecostal, Catholic, Presbyterian,
Yeah,
they all
yeah,
fight each other, who's right, who's wrong, and we get nothing done. But what I've done over the last 10 years is, hey, I'm not here to argue and fight with you who's right or wrong. I'm here to let's work together to make our community better. Let's get over our differences, and we've done that. So we work with like 500 different agencies and ministries and nonprofits and government agencies across the state to better Florida.
yeah. As far as it's, for the betterment of the American way of life, that's great.
Yeah, so we got to get back to we the people instead of we the lobbyists and we the big
Yeah.
corporations. And that's where
All right.
your fruit's going to show that.
Yeah, that's right. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I hope you have a great day.
You too. Thank you for the opportunity. You have a great day. Good talking to you.
You too. God bless you.
God bless you. Bye bye.
Bye.